Welcome to the Infinite Universe Podcast, episode 17. Masked up today, 6 feet apart, looking like Mortal Kombat characters.
Finish him.
I'm your host, J-Days. Alongside me, Patient Zero, Ben Pumpkin Claw Metless. And here we are, recording from your home again.
What up, everyone?
Close to the Wanda Hex. And we're here today to talk nothing but WandaVision in this episode. And forgive us if we sound like Rorschach from Watchmen, because we're wearing masks. And Ben, why don't you tell them why we sound like this?
Well, I got the J&J vaccine this morning, but about 8 hours after I got the J&J vaccine, I was told that someone I worked with Wednesday has COVID.
Yeah. So here we are, still in pandemic life. I'm currently wearing 3 masks. I'm 6 feet apart from COVID Claw over here.
That's what he claims. It's really because my body odor is just terrible and he doesn't want to be near me.
And now after this podcast, I have to go get tested tomorrow. But such is life.
The sacrifice you make, John,
now,
for
let
this
me
podcast.
ask you, Ben, you got the vaccine this morning. Did you develop any superhuman abilities after taking this dosage?
No. I mean,
Damn.
I have the ability to sit on the couch and watch Family Double Dare reruns.
Okay, there you go. All right, I just wanted to clarify that you did not turn into Steve Rogers after receiving Vita rays or whatever the hell it was.
No, not yet. I wish, but, I guess I got to still go back to work.
All right, before we get into today's awesomeness of the finale of everything that was WandaVision, let me remind you guys that we're currently running a giveaway on our YouTube channel. Enter today to win a Pop Funko of Super Skrull. All you need to do is first subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, like our videos, leave a comment, and share, and you'll automatically be entered into our giveaway. We'll announce the winner in the upcoming months, plus we have more sweet giveaways in the future, so make sure to subscribe today. Also, we're out there on all your favorite podcast platforms. Go on over to Apple Podcasts right now and subscribe, and please rate our show. Give us a 5-star if you like. We would greatly appreciate it.
John, that Super Skrull Pop Funko may be worth a little bit more after the series finale.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to talk
we'll get into that
all
a little
about
bit
that.
more. Yeah.
Ben, let's do this. We both just watched the season finale of WandaVision, and we're going to break everything down, discuss the epic finale in its entirety. But let's start off with your overall impression. What did you think of this episode? Did it live up to all the hype?
WandaVision!
Absolutely. Actually, the action in it, because this was one of the closest episodes to me of a Marvel movie.
For sure.
Because
exactly.
the battle in it, it was just battles.
It felt epic, though. It felt bigger than a TV series, for sure.
I would say that it was equal in battle scenes to Civil War.
Nice, yeah.
I would not Infinity War, but Civil. Do you remember watching Civil War for the first time and the two teams, Captain America and
at the
Iron
airport.
Man's teams, at the airport? That's what I felt like when I was watching the battles going on in this film.
That's what I was going to say. The show finale was so action-packed. The fight scenes were so awesome. And I did think, though, it didn't live up to some of the internet hype. But overall, I personally loved it.
Well, we're talking about a bunch of speculation. Everyone was, Luke Skywalker was trending today because people thought there was going to be that Luke Skywalker
a lot
moment.
of people are mad
Like
about
Doctor Strange,
about
like
that
Nick Fury.
Luke Skywalker quote unquote moment that was supposed to happen. But yeah, let's talk about the episode. Let's break it down for everyone, and we'll talk about stuff we liked and didn't like. But the episode started off where the last episode ended, with Agatha choking the F out of Wiccan and Speed, and Wanda is about to go to war for her children. And she blasts Agatha back using her powers and releasing the kids. And I like how Agatha got up in that scene. It was like out of a horror movie. Like when you see like the vampire just like float up. Like,
it was very Dracula.
Yeah, it was like, no, you didn't, bitch. I ain't down. So that was really cool. I know as a horror fan, that probably felt very familiar.
Well, her whole character as an evil witch was very Actually, I would even say very Sam Raimi Evil Dead-esque.
Yeah, no,
I would
this
say very, like, I was
There was-
expecting Ash to come out and be like, yo, she bitch.
there was a couple moments in this that to me it did feel very Sam Raimi, and at least that's where we're going in the next in the Doctor Strange movie. So it was really setting up this kind of almost horror element in Marvel in the MCU.
Well, we'll get to discuss what happens later because there was a little bit of a nod to Evil Dead and Sam Raimi in it. A little bit of Easter eggs that I picked out as a.
Yeah.
I know. I don't even think fans of Marvel would have noticed it.
No. Well, we'll talk more about
Yeah.
that as we get to it. So, in this beginning scene, we immediately see that Wanda is using her magic against Agatha, but it's actually starting to drain Wanda's life, it seems. Every time she hits her, and then Agatha's absorbing the power, and Scarlet Witch's hand turns black.
It's almost like she's deteriorating, like,
Yeah. And Agatha-
necrosis is taking in.
Yeah, and Agatha even says, I take power from the undeserving. It's kind of my thing. Dude, Catherine Hahn in this episode, once again, was just so much fun to watch. As a
Absolutely.
villain, as an actress, as the story kept unfolding, she would have these, like, fun moments and these badass moments at the same time. I just love the personality she brought to this
Once
character.
again, I've said it before in previous podcasts that comedians make excellent villains. We've seen it before in many other movies. Robin Williams, there's a dark side to comedians.
Yeah.
And that comedy aspect can be switched on and off. And yes, she was fantastic. She was a villain in my eyes.
I like how Agatha tells her to surrender her magic, and if she does, she'll let Wanda basically keep Westview. She'll let Wanda keep this false reality, this, fictional place that she made up. And just when you thought it was over for Wanda, she uses her head. She uses logic, just like she did in Civil War, where she throws a car at Agatha, knocking her into a house. And what was so dope about the scene, I know everyone picked up on this, it left Agatha looking like the Wicked Witch of the West from the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
You saw the shoes there hanging under, underneath the house, sort of.
It was a nice Wizard of Oz
Yeah, for
tribute.
sure.
Yeah.
And then this is what's so dope. Like this, it was just like a snowball effect of awesomeness back to back. Because then we get White Vision appearing, and he just kind of floats down out of nowhere. And Wanda asks, "Is it really you?" And then White Vision like walks up to her, and he's kind of like familiar at first, and then he grabs her in almost an embracing moment. But then the moment he grabbed her, I was like, "This ain't gonna be good." But at first it's embracing, maybe like, like you're my love. But then he starts squeezing the fuck out of her face. And I'm like, yo, what? And I just thought that scene was so dope because it was just like setting up like one obstacle after another for Wanda.
Well, her family dynamic is tearing down. Agatha threatened to take her children and then threatened to take her power, which in essence would destroy Vision and her children.
Yeah.
And then Vision comes back and she thinks it's Vision, but he tries to kill her.
Well,
It's like, what has this woman not been through?
Oh, yeah, exactly. It just keeps getting worse. When he squeezed her head and he said, I was told you were powerful. I was just like, oh, snap. Like, how strong is this thing? Like, is Wanda going to be able to defeat it? And just then, in that moment, Hex Vision comes to save the day and basically, like, knocks the other Vision out of the way. And then him and Wanda have a discussion and where she's basically like, I can fix this. And then what's dope is that Agatha, again, the comedic performance comes in where Agatha reappears and jokingly kind of says, which one are you going to choose? Oh, this is awkward. You got the ex-boyfriend and the new fling or whatever. That was just, again, just every scene in this finale just kind of getting more fun or better and just more exciting overall. But then we get Vision says to Wanda, and this was another like epic fucking moment where like just my excitement's building because Vision says to Wanda, "This is our home. We must defend it." And it was very much like there was a bunch of these like moments that felt like Avenger moments.
Yeah.
Like those moments where the team comes together or the hero is finally like showing their true greatness. And you kept seeing this little by little in this episode until it finally, rolls out into the big payoff. But I really loved a lot of the dialogue in this episode and just the excitement that it gave me. Like you said about the battles, this was some of the coolest stuff since we've seen in some of the movies. These were just some of the also like just coolest moments for the heroes to really take form into their roles.
Yeah, well, it's like when Billy and Tommy were saying to her, like, we could do this, Mom. And she goes, I know you can. This is what you were born to do. And then the four of them, Hex, Vision, Wanda, and then the two children, kind of standing there in their superhero pose.
Yeah.
It reminded me very much of The Incredibles.
Yeah, for sure.
It was nice. It wasn't goofy to the point where, I was like, oh, this is cheesy. It was just like, oh, man, The Incredibles. I was like, oh, it was great.
So before that scene, Hex Vision and White Vision shoot up into the sky and start. This is when their epic battle starts happening, where they're tossing each other around, phasing through punches and hits. And that was really fun to watch because it was like a mirror version of him, and that is going to play up a little bit more as we go along. But the next scene is actually the Jimmy Woo moments. And this was kind of fun that he kind of shined a little bit. In fact, all the characters that were the main characters throughout this series had opportunities to shine in this episode. And that's what I really liked. Jimmy Woo has that conversation with Hayward where he's handcuffed and he takes the phone and he makes a call for backup essentially.
Well, he basically tells Hayward before, he was like, no, my people are on their way. They're going to be here in 5 minutes. And then he calls up his people. He's like, I need you here in 5 minutes.
And that's
like
the thing.
Bluffing.
But he had his own hero moments.
Yeah, he did.
Which was cool. Now check this out. Like when he got on the phone and was like, hey, Cliff or whatever, I was like, yo, who's this Cliff character? And Cliff is actually a character in the Marvel Comics, Cliff Randall. He's part of like the collection something or another. They're basically like an alien race that can shapeshift. And
like the Skrulls?
Well, exactly. And I think in this, where they're going to take that character, if they even show that character, is it might end up being a Skrull and not this other kind of alien thing that the comics are doing.
That's a callback to the post-credit scene.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. So, but that was just a nice little tidbit that I'm sure will show up later, hopefully later in the MCU.
That makes more sense than what I thought. I actually thought he was talking to Cliff Barton. I thought he was talking to, because remember at the end of Endgame, Hawkeye and Wanda have a very intimate moment where they're like talking about like, because he lost, Black Widow and she lost Vision. And he goes, do you think we know we won? And Wanda goes, they know we won. And it was like, that's why I thought like maybe Jimmy Woo was calling like her counterpart. Like he almost turned into her buddy after the death of Vision.
I thought it was going to be a bigger surprise than whatever we got. But maybe this is, because we didn't see the Cliff character.
No.
So who knows who it could be,
It could be
sometimes
anybody.
they leave this stuff open-ended and then go back and like, oh yeah, was there all along.
Well, it's like when they talked about the aerospace engineer.
Exactly.
We never saw the aerospace engineer. We saw the representative for the aerospace engineer.
Exactly.
So like it could still be anybody. Yeah, they do a good job teasing us.
Yeah. So now the next scene, we go back into the witch fight, and we got the Dark Hole book the Dark Hole Book of the Damned. That was cool because obviously, if you watch this episode, you know that book is going to become more important as this storyline goes on. But you mentioned something about that book.
I did research on the Darkhold, and the Darkhold actually plays a very minimum part in Marvel's MCU. It involves a couple of like demigods in the beginning of the day, but it does resemble the Necronomicon from the Evil Dead series. Something that can either raise the dead or open up portals to another dimension.
Oh.
And I mean, of course, like we said before, Sam Raimi is directing
Doctor
Multiverse
Strange.
of Madness.
Yep.
And, he created the Necronomicon he didn't create the Necronomicon, H.P. Lovecraft did, but it was a big part in his movies. And I think that the Darkhold is an interesting symbol they're going to use. It's almost going to be like the Necronomicon in the Evil Dead, where, not to ruin the post-credit scenes, but we see what she's using it for.
Yes, exactly. And we'll get into that as well. I like when Agatha tells Wanda, the Scarlet Witch is not born, she's forged. And I think that goes back to that Book of the Damned, where, like, maybe those, that practice of witchcraft, is gonna turn her. Obviously, we see her, where her final boss form
Yeah.
in this, but it kind of seems like they left a lot of things open ended for where it's gonna lead, and it doesn't seem like it's leading down a happy-go-lucky path.
No, it doesn't.
Right? It seems very sinister or menacing, at least. Right?
Now that's interesting you said that about Agatha and the Darkhold, because remember the previous episode, we see Agatha basically destroying her coven.
Yeah.
And like she uses the same power, she's trying to suck out Wanda's powers out like that. What if the Darkhold like created Wanda out as a retaliation against Agatha?
Could be a possibility.
There was a lot of great theories that could print up. Like, there's a lot of subtle comments by Agatha that made me like wonder what was going on.
And here's another one that she says. She goes, she says like her power is stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yes.
Now,
Obviously.
our current Sorcerer Supreme is Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
So that's kind of scary that they're literally saying, Wanda, you're much stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, who's supposed to be the strongest sorcerer and
Exactly.
in all of like the multiverse.
And now that we're kind of talking about sorcerers and stuff, did you notice a lot of the hand motions that Agatha was using were almost reminiscent of some of the Doctor Strange?
Oh yeah, they're incantations.
Yeah, incantations. I thought that was really cool.
Well, I'm glad they're using this kind of power that he uses a lot in the movies, and other characters are using it, because who else has that ability and has dabbled in that? Victor Von Doom.
Oh,
That's Victor Von Doom's
hell
power.
Yeah.
He's like basically
All right.
Tony Stark with like with Stephen Strange's ability.
Okay,
So
nice.
he if they ever introduce him in the future, now we know we're not going to get the Raiden from Mortal Kombat Doctor Doom that is always silly in all the other versions. We're getting the actual Doctor Doom.
Oh, you mean just like the lightning bolt version?
Yeah, the lightning bolt, metal
okay.
skeleton. Like, we're going to get this megalomaniacal, dictator almost, who has the ability to control astral projection and power.
Fuck yes. I can't wait, because we're definitely getting a Fantastic Four down the line. Dr. Doom's going to be in there. And all this sorcerer stuff now, it's just so dope how they're intertwining all of these different elements. And it's like seamless. It doesn't feel forced at all.
It doesn't seem silly.
Yeah.
Because, they've introduced the sorcerer stuff with the science, and then you also have Thor's power. Like, it's very, very seamless. It seemed like, okay, well, this can definitely work together.
Now, here's something that I noticed in this episode, and I think also pissed a lot of fans off. Like, a lot of the people from the town, there was really no payoff for their characters, in fact. Like, Dottie just turned out to be a person from the town.
I think the payoff is not necessarily their characters. I think the payoff is how they look at Wanda.
Yeah, but there were other characters as well that there really wasn't much of a payoff for them. For instance, let's talk about Quicksilver. What was funny about his scene is they made him much like the Fox version of Quicksilver, with that bachelor pad and kind of like, video games and bro-ish and kind of like fun, and I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But that scene really had some funny comical moments, though, where Monica finds his, headshot, I think?
Yeah, because he was an actor.
And his name was Ralph Boner. Oh, my God. And then Photon uses her powers and figures out that it was an enchanted necklace that was given to Ralph Boner that gave him his powers, and that necklace was given to him by Agatha, obviously.
Yeah, he was a nobody.
But that again, just all these, theories around who are these people, and, how much do they know? Just kind of, I don't know.
I think it was misdirection.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't feel cheap to me, but it was definitely
No.
misdirection. But I do know a lot of people online are kind of like bitching about some of that, especially the Quicksilver aspect. I think people get over Dottie and you know, but I don't know. But it turned out Ralph was, you know, the Ralph we kept hearing about from
Yeah,
Agnes
it was
was just this guy.
I actually think that this payoff with Quicksilver Pietro being just a normal guy who happened to be played by the same guy who played Quicksilver in the other movies was a nod to the fans.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be a crossover gen of the multiverse. It was because, you know what? I think that more people would have been angry if they actually said it was a multiverse and then included the Fox films in the MCU. There would have been more of a backlash.
Well, it looks like this would have been an easy way for them to do the multiverse, but it seems like they're definitely going to explain it in a much more creative and thought out way.
Would you have been disappointed if they said, oh, he came from the multiverse and that was it? It would have been a cheap write-in of the multiverse.
Exactly.
It would have been lazy writing, something WB would have done.
Well, that was my fear going into this episode, though, was like, I'm like, how are they going to tie up so many of these what seem to be loose ends, but really were misdirections, right? But going into it, I'm like, yo, that's a lot to pack into 49 minutes. And then, exactly, it was misdirection, like you labeled it. And it didn't need to be answered because it wasn't what everyone assumed it was.
Assumed it was going to be. They knew that us fans would speculate, gave us a couple of nods and homages and character references that we all, like, did our research, made our... You know, did our speculations. You know who does that? Good magicians. Yeah. And that's basically what this movie is about. And like magicians.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. Well, M. Night Shyamalan couldn't do those kind of twists they did.
No.
I feel like his twists are kind of like hard-edged and the misdirections are a little bit more obvious now. But, I mean, I feel like the whole series is one big magic act.
Yeah. Well, it was cool when you start to see the townspeople snap out of the spell and start walking toward Wanda and then basically begging her to release them. And
they're afraid.
Yeah, and then Wanda, it's almost like a involuntary action, breaks off a Wanda blast that starts to choke everyone. And at that moment, I think that's when Billy and Tommy feel their mom's in trouble. And I think they, you know, race out of their house to go join the fight. But it was that scene was just awesome, though, because Agatha says, why don't you release them? Heroes don't torture people. And then Wanda realizes, like, oh, shit, like, I have been torturing these people. I need to release them. And then that's when she starts to break apart the hex, right? And she tells them all to run, and the people start, like, or the town, I mean, starts glitching. And you start seeing it go through different decades and different scenery. But what'd you think of that scene?
I don't think she knew she was torturing them. I think that she had a breakdown. She was grieving. And remember in 2 episodes ago, or the last episode, we see that Wanda was obsessed with, you know, different television shows.
Yeah.
Her father sold them on the black market in Sokovia?
I believe so,
No, not Sokovia. Sokovia was where... Oh, no, Sokovia.
Sokovia, yeah.
Her father sold them in Sokovia. And and that was her brain reacting and the power in her reacting. Because like you said, Agatha said that the Scarlet Witch is forged. It's not born. And she was forged out of pain. And her power emerged out of pain. And that was why she was kind of holding these people.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, and she was holding these people. So she thought she was doing these people good by keeping them in this happy-go-lucky world, when in reality they were suffering. And I think she realized that at the point. And there was also a great scene following that when she did start to tear down the hex, because Agatha put her into a predicament. She had a catch-22. Release these people and let them go and destroy your family, or hold them in this hex, and your family gets to survive. Yeah. It was almost like, you know, she didn't have a choice in the matter.
And then, now the next scene, we get back to the vision on vision violence, where they're fighting in the air, and White Vision starts to get the best of Hex Vision, and then Hex Vision and I think he falls to the ground, and then him and the boys start glitching away, like start breaking away until Wanda finally closes the hex again, right? Is that how it plays out? So what was cool about that scene though is that Wanda then has to save her family by using her magic, and unfortunately for her, Agatha again starts taking Wanda's powers and draining Wanda of her essence even more. And what was so cool about this scene is then this is when Hayward comes in with the rest of the militia or army or whoever his backup is. And what was so dope about this scene where all the villains of the series are surrounding like the heroes.
Yeah.
So it's Hayward and his squad. It's Agatha and
White Vision.
And then White Vision is there, and it's just like, oh shit. Just when you thought like this was awesome and epic, this is about to get so much crazier. And then we see what I call Team Wanda on the screen, where, as you mentioned before, it's this everyone in battle positions, even the two little booger eating kids are there in their position, and they're looking like they're about to be badasses. And Vision says to them, and this was so dope, I thought, "Me and your mom never prepared you for this." And then Wanda interjects, "But you were born for it." And I don't know if you noticed, but there was this like Avengers theme almost
music that was in the background. Yeah, it
and
did.
again, that was that moment where it felt like in Avengers 1 when you see the team all together.
Oh, that epic battle.
Yeah,
that,
in
like,
Manhattan, right in front of like Stark Tower, but in reality, it's Grand Central Station.
It's
I think
Grand
is
Central Station,
where it
yeah.
is. But that moment felt like that. That like whatever that like magical feeling MCU does to you when you're watching a movie. That's what happened to me in that
Gives you
moment.
goosebumps.
Yeah, exactly. And the battle rages on. Vision is battling it out again, and he says, "I'm not the true Vision." And basically uses logic against White Vision to defeat him. And what was really cool about this is it was over my head the first time, and the second time around is when I put on the captions and I read everything. But it was such an interesting theory.
He presented to him a paradox.
Yes, exactly.
It's a paradox.
Well, first off, White Vision is just a computer, basically, right? And computers solve equations.
Yes.
Or
they're logical. And
so
he's programmed to destroy Vision and Wanda.
yes, exactly. But Hex Vision starts to use this theory. And do you want to describe? Do you know what it is?
Hex Vision says to him it was a example of I forgot the name of the boat. It's a Viking boat that's in a museum. And over the years, the wood of the boat starts to deteriorate.
It was the ship of Theus?
The ship of Themes. Of the Theeds?
No, it's the ship of
Theatus?
Theatus. I think it was the ship of Theatus.
And he says once you replace all the boards and you change up all the wood and all the original material, is it still the original ship, or is it a different ship?
Yeah, he mentions the rotted wood of the pieces of the ship, and if the ship is like rebuilt piece by piece, is it still that guy's ship? Or if you take the rot out of the wood and then rebuild the ship, is it still that ship? Or was it only the pieces that the guy's hands touch that made it the ship?
Or is it just the ship's identity that makes it the ship, not even the original material?
So this is just like a conundrum for White Vision, because he's like, both answers are true.
Yeah.
And it kind of puts him in this like really confused state where he's like, hold up. Because the whole thing was his mission, that White Vision, was to destroy Vision. But he's Vision. So does he destroy himself?
Yeah.
Was the paradox, right?
It was the paradox.
That's what
It's also a paradox on identity. Like, what is identity? Like, if I cloned you, who's the real John? Now, would that other clone still hold your memory? And it's the part, and it's something that a lot of scientists have studied over and over the years. Where does biochemistry and quantum mechanics meet consciousness? Now, generally, Vision is an AI. So his parts are him because it's the original parts, but minus the Mind Stone.
Yeah.
So where was the identity of Vision actually created? And it brings up to another, in the end of the show, that there was a little teaser, and as a science fiction fan, I picked it up. But we'll mention that at the end when we go through it.
So let's get back to the fight scene where it's Wanda and Agatha and the military's there. So Agatha grabs the soldiers and hoists them in the air and then drops them. And Wanda has to save them, even though that these people are trying to kill Wanda. And then Wanda tells the kids, and this is funny, like, boys, handle the military. Mommy will be right back.
Yeah.
I love that scene, man. Like, can I just say, seeing a strong female at almost every moment of this series has been amazing to watch. And again, this moment is just one of many moments in this series where Elizabeth Olsen shines so brightly. You know, the dialogue, the facial expressions, the mannerisms,
the emotional connection.
Yes, it's so fucking. For me, it's a home run over and over and over.
This would be a poor television show if they had a weaker actress. And they had probably one of the strongest actresses they could have gotten, and she was fantastic in it. And
then I like when Wiccan freezes the soldiers, and then Speed takes all their weapons away, and then he takes the guy's sunglasses and hat. and what was interesting about this, though, again, another nod to the Fox universe, because in what movie was it? Was it Age of Apocalypse?
I thought it was Days of Future Past.
It was Days of Future Past. That scene where he goes to break out Magneto, and he's messing up all the security guards, and he like takes off the guy's hat and glasses and puts it on. Same thing that Speed did in this episode. It's so cool how, like, if you're a geek and you really like know this stuff, you're like, oh, that scene's familiar. That's so awesome that they're paying homage to this. All right. And then let's move on. So at this point, Hayward doesn't like what he just saw. He's like, fuck. And he goes and takes out his gun and starts busting off shots, and you think the boys are about to get blasted. But Monica, a.k.a. Photon, jumps in and I guess uses her abilities to absorb the gun, the bullets.
I think that she allowed the bullets to phase through her. Yeah. Or she phased through the bullets.
And then the last bullet goes off and she doesn't see it and it's a little too late. But Wiccan is able to stop it with his ability, and then it's kind of cute. They both like compliment each other on their powers. Yeah. That was kind of funny.
I think Monica was also surprised because I don't think she knew at that moment like that the kids were that powerful.
Exactly. And then this is where Hayward tries to get away, but then another epic moment for one of the main characters in this series. Here comes Darcy, her big moment where she comes. And such a grand moment it is. She's driving in the ice cream truck and just slams right into Hayward. And then I think she says, like, enjoy jail.
Yeah.
And that, I think, was her only scene in the whole freaking episode. But again, what a way to, like, bring back all the, like, everyone from Agent Woo, Darcy, Monica, and Quicksilver all had these really fun important moments in this episode.
They were minor, but they still added to the overall presentation of the show.
Yeah.
And they added substance.
From there, so we kind of talked about the Vision battle again. And after, the White Vision goes into his, basically he just kind of flies away after he's
Hex Vision releases him from his protocol.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. We forgot that. Yeah. And then he inserts his memories.
Well, he didn't insert his memories. His memories were there.
Oh, it's built in. I'm sorry.
They were being blocked by the
he mentions that Hayward. Memories remain like in your data, in your hardware, or whatever it was, something like that. And he unblocks whatever blocker was blocking out
Well,
those.
like what he did throughout the episode
Yes,
release other people from the hex.
Yeah, so he released him from his whatever, Hayward had done to him. And then he flies away, right?
Yeah, he just flies straight up in the air.
Flies away, which to me, I'm like, we're probably gonna see him again in down the line.
Oh, we'll definitely see him again.
So that's kind of fun to just know that, like, and I don't know what will come of him, if he's good, if he's bad, where it happens.
He might be neutral.
Well,
he might become a neutral character who like stays out of the fray and like only arrives when like needed.
Yeah.
Or because he's Vision, but he's missing the Mind Stone.
Yes.
So it's like how much of his, not his memories, but how much of his feeling comes from the Mind Stone.
Well, let me ask you this though. So on IMDb, they had Ultron. What's the guy's name?
They had
James Spader.
James Spader.
James Spader listed. When did he appear?
I didn't hear Ultron's voice.
So what I was thinking though, like there was a couple moments where White Ultron's voice started to alternate a little bit.
White Vision, you mean?
It was like it was getting deeper and glitchy almost.
It might have been James Spader's voice.
And I was like, was that it? Or did I miss it?
There could have been a scene in the flashbacks when, like, Ultron just showed up. Because even if they just do a flashback scene from a previous movie,
they have to give him credit?
They have to still give him credit.
Huh.
So it's probably something like that. Maybe it was in the last episode when they did all the flashbacks that his voice came in.
All right, well, let's see. All right, so from this moment, the boys are reunited with their dad. And here's another part that I loved. A callback to Age of Ultron when we see Wanda next, and she does the wiggle fingers on Agatha.
Well, she starts to get the best of Agatha.
Yeah, well, she starts to get the best of Agatha, and she gets her in that nightmare scenario the same way she did Tony in Age of Ultron. And it was just so cool to see that part, because that was one of the first moments we saw of Wanda in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
So it was just like it was tying up a nice, neat little package for us, at least for me as a fan.
It's a full circle of her powers, because we've seen her exert some extraordinary powers in this show.
Yeah.
And like to go back to her simple tricks that she first learned in Age of Ultron.
Her mind games, yeah.
Yeah.
And what was cool though is that the mind game she plays on Agatha is Agatha's back tied up, like we saw in the previous episode. This kind of like burning of a witch kind of Salem witch trial sort of scene, where surrounded by all the dead witches.
Yeah, it was Agatha's coven that was trying to kill Agatha for her practice in the dark arts. And but then Agatha turned the nightmare around.
Well, that was what was so dope. You see that there's like these moments with Catherine Hahn's facial features where you're like, so at first you think Wanda has the best of Agatha, but within moments, Agatha does this almost like a smirk, or like she's aware of what's going on. And then all the dead witches start rising up and they're saying Wanda's name and starts walking toward her, calling her the Scarlet Witch. And then the dead witches tie up Wanda, and now Wanda's in this nightmare scenario. And I like when Agatha says to her, power isn't your problem, it's knowledge. And that's so true for throughout all of Wanda's story in all of these movies, is that she always had power, extreme power. She just never knew how to control it or her capabilities even. Under
moments of duress, she always shows some significant power, but she's never able to fully understand it.
And what that reminds me of, though, reading the comics growing up of Marvel and X-Men and mutants, when it was always moments of like huge trauma or distress that these mutants' abilities would manifest themselves. Yeah. And I really feel like we saw that a lot with Wanda, because every time she went through trauma, it looked like her abilities grew.
And became stronger.
And she became stronger. So is Wanda a mutant, perhaps? And the Mind Stone was just
enhanced her ability.
Yeah, and sped up her process,
Yeah.
maybe, you know? And is that gonna, be talked about in the Eternals later on? Because I know that still has to do with the Infinity Stones and that
And
sort of.
apparently they're making a Mutants movie. It's called The Mutants
All
before
right.
X-Men. I saw a release in 2023 or 2024.
Is that speculation or is that
I've
official?
seen it on 2 or 3 sites. I haven't seen anything official.
Oh, well, if you saw it on
official,
2 or 3 sites, it's got to be true. I'm just kidding.
I can sense the sarcasm is strong with this one.
Then we see Wanda blast out of being tied up and pushes Agatha back through Westview, or into Westview, I should say. And I really loved how this played out, because Vision tries to help her, but then Wanda puts him in sort of like a box and like shoots him back down to the ground. That was cool because it was like a moment again where you see Wanda with one hand fighting the villain, and then with the other hand doing something with Vision, just like she did in Infinity War, where she's trying to destroy the Mind Stone in Vision, but also fighting Thanos back. So I thought, again, another cool, like just nod to like moments we've seen in previous films.
Yeah.
Did you want to add something to that?
Well, I wanted to talk about the next scene when her Agatha and Wanda start fighting, and she goes into her true form.
All right. So here we go. Like Ben said, they're fighting. They're up in the air now. And what was so cool about this is like, we see Wanda keeps missing Agatha. She's hitting her sometimes, but noticeably missing her a lot. And the power is still being drained from her every time she hits Agatha, and Agatha's growing stronger and stronger and stronger. And it looks like eventually Agatha is about to drain all her power. And that's when Agatha tries to finish Wanda off. But plot twist, behind Wanda, we see one symbol. And then behind Agatha, you see a symbol. And then all around them, there's like a few more symbols. So this whole time, while Wanda was missing her, she was actually casting spells to trap Agatha. Much like Agatha in the previous episode trapped Wanda in the basement with those spells that basically you can't break those spells if you didn't create them.
Now, I have a theory because at one point you think Wanda's done and that Agatha's about to drain her power, but when Agatha tries to use Wanda's power, it doesn't work. And then all of a sudden the power, like Wanda just comes out and has more power. I think in that scene, what Wanda learned and what Agatha didn't understand about the Scarlet Witch is that Wanda has unlimited powers. She doesn't have a finite amount of energy like the other witches in the Coven did when Agatha sucked them out. Wanda's power is infinite and will always come out of her from the power maybe granted from the Mind Stone or just the fact that she's a Scarlet Witch. And I think Wanda realized that at one point where she goes, you know what? Like, I understand I'm getting weak, but I'm getting weak because I've never exhausted this much power before. Let me exhaust myself to the end and see how far I can go. Because remember, she says, you want the power, take it. She starts throwing purposely.
Exactly.
And purposely letting Agatha absorb all of the energy.
For me, it kind of played out like this. It was very much so she was on purpose giving Agatha all the power, but knowing that the spell that she cast around them in the air wouldn't allow Agatha to use the power
against her.
So then it would just, I don't know, force its way back into her because, dun dun dun, we finally see the final boss form of Wanda when she becomes a Scarlet Witch in that moment.
Which was amazing.
Yeah, really, really cool.
The design was really great.
Yeah, first off, like you were saying, the visuals were awesome. All the energy being pushed back into her. Scarlet Witch's or Wanda's face before that was like really shriveled, but the eyes were still like the bright red, like weird looking, crazy eyes. And then you see that like silhouette of the Scarlet Witch, and there was even that part where in the scene before we're in that nightmare, you see that crown form, that like Scarlet Witch headband sort of thing, and then
it's like Scarlet Witch tiara.
Yeah, and then the costume, like you said, was so awesome, right? Like it looks so badass.
It didn't look cheesy. It looked like it was like her. It was like how like a queen witch would look.
Yeah.
Now Agatha says something interesting to her that I found that I
Oh,
have
yeah.
another theory on.
Oh yeah. Say it.
Agatha says to Wanda Scarlet Witch, "You don't know what you've done."
Yeah.
Now, at first, when I first watched that scene, I assumed that she meant you ripped open the multiverse by doing this. What I think she meant is that think about what happened in the show. Agatha was never in Westview when Wanda created the hex. She sensed it. She sensed the hex created, and she saw the amount of power, and she desired it for herself. What other what other people out there or beings in that universe sensed it also and are on their way to Westview
Good
or
point.
to Earth? Like, you know, there could be many other powerful beings in space. Like, remember what the original Sorcerer Supreme said to Hulk when he wanted to get the time stone from him. She goes, if you take one, you leave our timeline at risk for other beings to come and attack us. So basically, there's no Infinity Stones. And now this super powered, like basically living Infinity Stone has exerted an immense amount of energy that can be sensed by sensitive creatures.
Yeah.
So it was a very, I mean, she could be talking about the multiverse, but I think that the ending actually hinted at that more.
Yeah, and Wanda tells Agatha that she's going to be stuck here in Westview as the nosy neighbor.
That was great.
And then this is so great because, like, and obviously, you know, there's editing, but to me as a fan, it just was seamless. You know, how she goes back into the nosy neighbor role,
Pass.
but before that, she actually says to Wanda, she says, "You're going to need me because you don't know what you've unleashed." And then Wanda says, "I know where to find you." And I was like, oh, that was so dope.
Which I like because they didn't write Agatha off. That means she's not a one-off character.
Yeah,
It
and
means
she'll
that
be back for
she'll
sure.
be back.
Like, the fans loved her. She's one of the funnest villains that we've seen since, like, Loki.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great comparison. She is a female Loki. And I think she is one of the funnest villains. Like, you kind of want to like her, but she's so evil and does such dickish things.
Yeah,
that you can't.
exactly. And then Vision and the boys meet Wanda back in the center of town. And basically they start coming to terms with the fact that this false reality that
Has to
she
end.
created it has to end. It's about to end. So they go home. They tuck the boys in, and they have this really super sweet, caring, and loving moment that just, I don't know about you, but it just pulled at our heartstrings. And they say their goodbyes. And Wanda says one last thing to them. She says, "Thank you for choosing me to be your mom."
Yeah, that was nice symbolism too, because meaning that they're not gone, they just went somewhere else.
Now,
And I
did you end up crying during that scene?
I teared up a little bit. Yeah, I teared up in that.
I didn't. I was, staying strong for us both, I guess. But
I'm a softie.
but all the town around him starts to turn back into the real Westview, and then we see Vision and Wanda downstairs. Wanda's turning off all the lights, but then Vision turns one back on and says, "It's bad luck to say goodbye in the dark." And then Hex Vision asks Wanda, "What am I?" And Wanda tells him, and this is another really sweet moment, that you're a piece of the Mind Stone that lives in me. You're also my sadness and my hope and mostly my love. And again, I'm like, oh my God, they fucking...
Fantastic writing.
They know how to fucking write and make me into a big old softie, because it was just such a sweet moment, I thought.
Can I make a comment on the barrier going back? Like, if you look while the barrier is receding towards the house, it goes over the movie theater. And the movie theater has a movie playing called Tannhauser Gate. It's a callback to Blade Runner, which is considered in some circles the greatest science fiction movie of all time. Now, in it, it's basically about replicants being hunted down because they don't deserve to live after a certain amount of time. Robots with memories. And Roy Batty, the main villain, gives a speech about memories and like robot memories. And he goes and basically says, like, all these memories lost. He mentions Tannhauser Gate and goes, all these memories lost, meaning like after I die, they're just going to be going like Tears in the Rain. That's right. It's called Tears in the Rain speech. So that actually goes back to Vision and Vision Hex and White Vision discussing what is real, which one of them is real. Like, are their memories not both of their memories real? Like when Vision goes, well, it was very deeper. It was a nice science fiction.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like has anything to do than a nod and commentary on the idea of memories and robots. So it was just, I watched that and I've read the speech over and over again. I watched it on YouTube. So I was like, oh, Tannhauser Gate Blade Runner. And then I thought to myself, oh, I'm such a geek.
Yeah. And then we see them kiss and he says, we've said goodbyes before and it stands to reason. And then Wanda interjects. She says, we'll say hello again. And he says, so long, darling. And then he starts to disappear. And the reality of him starts to break away. And then snap back to reality. Oh, there goes Rabbit. No, I'm just kidding. But snap back to reality. We got Wanda standing in the middle of that vacant lot where the home once stood.
That they were supposed to build.
And she throws up her hood and starts walking away from it. And then you see all the townspeople grilling her as she's walking through Westview. And then she kind of gets to the center of town, and that's when Monica Rambeau and Wanda start to talk. And Monica basically says, if I had that power, I would have probably done the same thing and brought back my mother. And it was just a moment.
Doesn't Wanda kind of apologize to her too?
Yeah, she apologized to her. And then she says, the townspeople will never forgive me. And Monica says, like, they'll never know what you sacrificed. But it seemed like it was a peace moment between the two characters saying, like, hey, I understand. I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry your family's gone. And
Monica also
we're forgiving each other for,
our past grievances.
Yeah.
Monica also saved Wiccan. And I think that Scarlet Witch, Wanda saw that. And it was kind of like that head nod. Like, you saved my children. You almost sacrificed yourself for my kids. So, like, that's...
Yeah. And then we see Wanda fly away from Westview. She turns around one more time to give it a look. And then, boom, credits. And then we had not one, but two bonus scenes, which was kind of fun.
Wait a minute. Did you notice at the end of the credits that there was no please stand by screen?
Yeah.
And that was missing.
So, are we getting another series of this? I heard this is supposed to be a standalone, but, we'll see. They leave things open-ended. I guess we really got to see how Doctor Strange plays out. But these two bonus scenes really set up a couple pieces of content coming in the future from the MCU. So the first scene, actually before Wanda flies away, in fact, there you hear like police cars or whatever, the sirens coming, and they pull up behind Monica. Then, Wanda flies away, credits roll, but then we go back to a bonus scene where the people get out of the cars behind Monica, and this woman says, hey, we have to go into the theater to debrief you or something like that, or he wants to talk to you or something.
Someone wants to talk to you. Yeah.
So right away, like, I was like, oh, something interesting is about to happen, and who is this random freaking person? And then, boom, they shapeshift into a scroll, and I forget exactly what she says to Monica.
Monica says to her, well, where is he? And she points up.
Yeah.
Meaning that he's up in space.
Yeah.
And Monica got excited because, remember, the series started in like episode 3.
She wanted to go back in space.
And Hayward told her she was grounded.
Yeah.
So she's getting to go back
So
into
she
space.
does a little smile, and then it ends. So that's setting up for Secret Invasion with Nick Fury and or Captain Marvel 2. We'll see where that goes.
Maybe Reed Richards is up in space.
Yeah, let's see what happens with all that. But that's very exciting. And that was just a fun little, like, moment where you're like, ooh, what's next? But then it got even better. There was another bonus scene after, some more credits where we see this like cabin in the woods almost, um, surrounded by a lake and just beautiful scenery.
It was
And
much like the end of Infinity War.
yeah, with
Like,
Tony's cabin almost.
no, I'm talking about like
Oh, I'm sorry. That was.
Thanos, like
Oh, yeah.
sitting in by himself in solitude,
Yeah.
like just enjoying the peaceful life.
So it was nice. She's sitting there with a cup of tea and she goes to refill the tea. And then the camera goes to like the other room and you see Scarlet Witch in her astral form reading
Through the Darkhold.
the Darkhold and using all sorts of like spells and magic. And really looks more advanced than she's ever been before in terms of the sorcery stuff.
Yeah, we've
really
never seen her project a second of her.
and
like,
really seeing that witch vibe from her for the first time, really. I mean, but then we hear voices.
we hear the children go, "Help, mom! Say, find us!" or
Yeah.
help, mom! Find us!" Yeah,
So-
so we know she's searching for access to the multiverse to find her children in the multiverse. Which
Here's my question, though. They wouldn't be her children, though. It
would be another version.
Another
of her
version
children.
of, okay,
So maybe
exactly.
this Wanda won't be the villain. It will be another multiverse's Wanda. Imagine a Wanda from another multiverse going into a multiverse realm and
What if
taking the children.
Wanda takes the children from another realm, and then that Wanda from
comes
that
over.
realm is like, yeah, those are my kids.
Yeah, and they battle it out.
Okay, maybe. Let's see what happens with all that. But it was just really exciting because it's definitely setting up Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and just what we're going to see with Secret Invasion. So all of that is just, I'm excited, man. Like I was on the edge of my seat that whole episode.
I'm
Again,
gonna go back and rewatch them all.
yeah. Oh, dude, in like one or two sittings,
Yeah.
and then see what little things you missed, or if there was like little subtleties that like now looking back, you're like, oh, duh. But I'm just excited to see where this goes, man. I gotta really sit down and think, but it's definitely in my top 10. Maybe even top 5. I gotta see where everything plays out. But I really, really enjoyed this series.
I would say it's my top 5.
Beginning to end. It paid off for me. It was fun, exciting. I love the mystery of it each week when we were like theorizing and hypothesizing what's going on, like who's this, what's that. And again, we mentioned this the last time in our last podcast. When has a piece of content of movie or TV like really done this for the fan base where you're that excited every week, like to put the puzzle together?
It's got, I mean, other than Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But even Mandalorian wasn't that complex, constructive. I mean, it did have a little bit of repetitive plot points, and like WandaVision seemed to be a full 8.5 hour movie that they cut up into different episodes.
Yeah.
So I think I'm more excited for Loki now.
So before we jump into what's coming next on the Disney Plus MCU series, we didn't get the Luke Skywalker moment. Paul Bettany for weeks was hinting, I've been really looking forward to working with this actor and blah, blah, blah. And everyone was thinking, oh, is it Benedict Cumberbatch? Is it, who's it going to be? It turned out he was just like trolling us. It was him. He was excited to work with himself, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, then we got to expect that.
Yeah, another mislead, but I wasn't mad about it. But some people online, if you see some of the memes and just some of the comments, people are salty that he kind of misled people like that.
No, well, I mean, Tom Holland did the same thing with the Spider-Man name. They all did. All the characters. I mean, this is something I think Marvel's going to start doing. They're going to start teasing us.
Yeah.
Because they know that casual fans don't do the research, speculation, theories that we do as the die-hardened, like, I'm going to watch it 4 times and, like, take it apart fans. So they kind of got us. I mean, they got us, like, and now they're going to tease us.
Yeah, they're having fun with us, and we're having fun with them. You know, so I'm here for it. We gotta
expect it. I'm fine with it.
Now, I want to say one other thing. Did you happen to catch Paul Bettany on, I think it was Colbert a couple nights ago?
No, I didn't. I saw he was on.
And it was just, this is kind of like off topic, but it was kind of funny. he was talking about, and then this is so random because I didn't even realize it. Like, he was in the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah,
When
he played the albino.
Yeah. I didn't realize that until he said it, but he told this funny story about him and Tom Hanks on the set where they had a fight scene where he had to punch Tom Hanks in the stomach. And when he did, Tom Hanks, by accident, let out the biggest, grossest fart ever. And what was funny was Tom Hanks, I think, told Steven about it. So Steven asked Paul about it, and Paul was like, well, if he talked about it, I guess it's okay to talk about it. And he was just like, it was one of his, I guess, he was still new to the scene, or he was just working with the legend. He didn't know how to react in that moment of, what do I do? Do I laugh? And do we keep going? Like, what happens? And anyway, I just thought that was a funny
made Tom Hanks fart by punching him.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, he is a comedic actor, and or he does comedy as in parts. I loved him in A Knight's Tale. He plays the writer of these famous poems from back in the day. He plays actually Chaucer.
Yeah, I got to see that. I never saw that one.
Oh, it's great.
I heard it's funny.
It's a cheat. It's so unrealistic, but it's great. It's a good movie.
Yeah, and just going back to what we've been saying over and over again about this series, Elizabeth Olsen deserves an award for this. Catherine Hahn should get Best Supporting Actress. And I don't know, the writers, Paul Bettany maybe, I don't know. Someone needs to walk away with the big prize because they knocked this series out of the park.
They're not going to,
Grand Slam. What?
They're not going to give them any awards.
Yeah.
Because they'll give them awards for production design, music, stuff like that. Because if they give the actual actors awards, they legitimize MCU movies. And they are doing their best to not legitimize MCU movies.
But at this point, with Infinity War and Endgame,
it's about time they legitimize them, and they're great storytelling.
This is legitimate storytelling.
Yeah, but
just as good as anything else out there.
Yeah,
at least to me.
No, I completely agree. But there is a large group of people who are tired of seeing MCU films. They don't like comic book movies. Then they don't get why 2 or 3 of them come out every month, and they don't get the series ideas. Now I know plenty of people who don't get them but watch them and love them. So that's why I don't watch award shows. They're rigged. But she definitely deserves an Emmy. But yeah. I know it's not going to happen.
Well, at least she gets the fan critical acclaim because everyone loved the series and everyone has such high praises.
Yeah, John Stamos praised
a lot of the actors.
Did you see that on Twitter? John Stamos tweeted because when she was a little girl, she was actually on set for one of the Full House tapings. She her sisters were there, and John Stamos took a picture of her, and he retweeted the picture, and he goes, "Back in the day, you were a tiny little running around the set of in the back set of Full House. Now you're one of the most powerful women actresses out there doing her thing." He goes, "I'm so proud of you."
I can't wait to see what's next for Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of her as an actress now, and I really hope she blossoms into a mega celebrity or mega movie star from this. She already is, but I'm talking, outside of this genre. All right, so now we have a week in between our next piece of content, Falcon Winter Soldier.
That's exciting.
Did you happen to watch those? I think it's the Marvel Legends hype up moments.
I was going to, but there's so much content. I don't know if I really need to go back.
No, they're 5-minute little things, maybe 8-minute. Okay. I don't even know. It's worth watching because they break them down for each character. So there's a Falcon one first, and there's a Winter Soldier one, and it's all the moments. And when you go back and you see this highlight reel of these moments, I was sitting there with my family watching this episode, and it was just this little clip. And I was like, holy shit, these actors have done so much throughout this story. Yeah. And going back and seeing their moments and how their characters build, I wanted to literally go back and watch all these movies over again from watching these Marvel Legend 5-minute little things. It really hyped me up for what's coming next.
I'm excited I'm glad we only have a week.
Yeah.
I think I would be disappointed if it was like April 4th or April 21st. Like,
And then we got Loki coming in June, I think it is.
so it's like we have a month and a half in between Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Loki then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think that's when Black Widow's getting released.
Yeah, exactly. Black Widow's supposed to be, was it April?
April
or
or May.
I think it's May.
So Black Widow's in between Loki and Falcon, Winter Soldier.
So we just keep, the ball keeps rolling.
Why
We got a
couldn't
little
this be
downtime
released
in between.
2020 when we were all home. Like, you know, come on, guys. But no, I'm grateful for the content we're getting.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to what's coming next. I hope you all enjoyed WandaVision as much as we did. Definitely in my top 10. Maybe we'll do a countdown of Marvel's best top 10 content, maybe in one of the upcoming shows. But in the meantime, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're also out there on all the podcast platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast. If you're on Apple Podcast, please leave us a rating. Give us a 5. We'd really appreciate that. Or leave a comment as well. That's also appreciated. And if you want to win that Pop Funko of Super Skrull, which is freaking awesome because we're definitely getting a lot more Skrulls coming up. And if we're getting Fantastic Four eventually, I would love to see a Super Skrull on the big screen or in a series.
Yeah.
So you can win that Pop Funko right now by entering our giveaway. Remember, subscribe to us on YouTube, like our videos. You must leave a comment and share the video, and you're automatically entered. We're going to pick one of you at random later this year and hook you up with that awesome prize. And we got more prizes coming up throughout the year, as well as a whole bunch of content, including podcasts, theories, and other goodies. We're going to start doing some live videos soon, so that's exciting. Remember, you could also reach us on our own social media. I'm out there at JDayzNYC. That's JDayzNYC.
I'm out on YouTube at BH Pumpkin Claw, and my Instagram is at Pumpkin Claw, and Twitter the same thing.
And we're also out there at Infinite Universe Podcast on IG. Make sure to follow us. We post a lot of content throughout the week. We've been engaging with a lot of our listeners on there and sharing different pieces of content that they create. It's really cool. So check us out on there. And what else, Ben? Is that about it?
I think that's about it, man. Yeah.
All right. Well, remember one thing. Although we may be a-holes, we are not 100% dicks. Until next time, I'm J-Days,
I'm
here
Ben.
with COVID Claw, a.k.a.
Ben Pumpkin Claw Metless.
I'm going to go get tested right now. Till next time, we're out of here. Peace.
Peace.